And 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Cisneros, and you are listening to Cis.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. This is Cincy Brewcast. It's the voice of Cincy Craft, and this is a special episode. It's we don't do like anniversary shows on here, but if we did, this would probably be what it would sound like, because I like to start the show off with Mike's voice. It's fitting that I'm sitting here with Eric from Darkness for a lot of different reasons. I mean, it's Big Cis night, and this year it was brewed down here at Darkness, but Darkness was also episode 10 maybe of Cincy Brewcast. You and Ron came and sat down in what we like to call Cincy Brewcast Studios at the time. It was really Mike and Nancy's dining room table, but we don't tell people that. It was a studio.
It was kind of upstairs and a split level, right? Yeah, something like that.
We were still downstairs at that point. We hadn't
gone up yet.
Got the whole big table and everything upstairs. Talking to your microphone again.
I'm talking into my microphone. Would you like for me to talk a little bit more so that you can get everything balanced? Does that sound good to you?
Sounds fine.
All right,
cool. Can you guys hear him okay?
Yeah. Well, I can be louder. Don't threaten me with a good time. You want me to get closer?
Make sure I got the right mic. Yeah, get in close to it.
I'm going to get in close.
There you go. So, episode 10, you guys came and you sat around the dining room table, and we talked about this little idea that you guys were working on. You were getting ready to start a brewery project, and it became this.
Yes.
So it's I'm excited to have Big Cis make its way down here, because especially at that early stage of Cincy Brewcast, you guys were a big part of us kicking the whole thing off and realizing that it was possible to actually make a beer podcast.
Oh yeah,
make it work. When we first started the show, and I'll go through the whole story here in just a little bit. But when we first started doing the show, we were sitting around, and there was this concern that hit after a few episodes. We're like, okay, we can sit around the table, we can drink beer, and we can talk to each other, and that'll be fine. But we still have to get people from these breweries to give us the time of day to sit and talk about things and to share kind of their stories and what's going on. And there was a valid concern that maybe people would just look at us and be like, we don't really have time for you guys and your stupid microphones.
Yeah.
And right around that time when you guys came on, right before you, we had Brewhouse Dog Bones on. I think the episode right before you guys.
Okay.
We had, we were hitting this little point where people were excited to come sit down and share their stories, and we realized, this could actually work. This could be a thing. So I appreciate your role in our story, and I'm glad to be down here for Big Cis. Big Cis is a collaboration beer. Every year we get together with as many different local breweries as we can possibly scrounge together, which I believe it is still I might be like making things up when I say stuff like this, but I think it's the biggest collaboration that has ever happened in Cincinnati beer. And I say that because it's been going on now for 8 years.
Which would beat out Beer Week from years past.
And as far as the number of breweries that have gotten together there weren't that many breweries in Cincinnati when the Beer Week stuff was happening.
Especially consistently for as long as it's gone on.
I'm trying to pull up my notes here, too, to get everybody that was involved this year, because we had a good list. So Darkness, obviously, that was you guys. You were making the beer. You guys brewed it. And I do say you guys brewed it because most of us didn't really help that much. We just kind of stood around and watched.
There was a few that helped grain out. That's for sure.
I didn't even do that this time.
It's okay.
I'm very famous. I can't be graining out. Darkness Brewing, Alexandria, Paradise, Fibonacci, Third Eye, Nine Giant Wooden Cask, and this is not a dig at the other breweries, but probably my favorite one that was able to collaborate is Glendale House, because they're not even open yet. Mm-hmm. They still have not opened their doors, but he was able to come down on his lunch break from his day job and come down and hang out with us and collaborate on the beer. So I like seeing that stuff happen. I like seeing new breweries get involved in a beer that maybe they appreciate for different reasons than some of us do. I like that the spirit of what Big Cis is can kind of keep growing and become something that is kind of all-encompassing of what craft beer is.
Yeah.
Which is, for me, what I kind of feel about Mike was that he kind of was this personification of the craft beer spirit. He was everything that I love about craft beer. Mm-hmm. That idea of community and family and people coming together, and you didn't have to know Mike very long before you were part of his family.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the beer specifically. This is a oated lager. Is that what we're calling it?
I mean, so we're simplifying that as going with oat lager.
An oat lager.
Yes, an oat lager.
So it's get in real close to that. I still feel like
sorry.
It'll be fine on the podcast, but I feel like none of them can hear you.
Okay. So essentially, Mike's favorite beer being a Pilsner is what a lot of the Big Cisses have been through the years. A couple different recipes, but a lot of the same one. I believe Municipal, we did a tropical stout one year, maybe an English pale ale.
Nailed it, yeah.
And then we kind of came back and did another Pilsner, sort of an older recipe. So this year, instead of just doing a Pilsner, we reached out to family and found out that apparently his second favorite beer was an oatmeal stout.
Right.
So we've been wanting to play with this particular oat malt from Breeze that is relatively new. And we've had trouble getting the flavor to come out in oatmeal stouts, pale ales, IPAs, etc. So the idea of doing it with a lager to try to showcase the flavor profile of the malt was something that I've been thinking about. And then when all that kind of came to light with Mike's choices, this was what we decided to go with. So we kind of crossed, not so much a Pilsner, it's not very bitter. It's quite sweet finish, actually, but
smooth is what I keep wanting to call it. It's like is a terrible descriptor for a beer. But
I would call it a cross of like a Helles it's like a Helles with oats in it. So it's simple, easy drinking, clean. There's the tiniest bit of maybe some silky mouthfeel from the oats.
Yeah,
a little bit of flavor profile, but still here you like clean, crisp, very lager forward. It came out great.
When we started the Big Cis collaboration and we were sitting around, we actually were all sitting around a table at Bad Tom Smith having a meeting about it, which there's a couple stories there, but we were all sitting around this table. You remember how they had that bar that kind of stuck out in the middle of the tap room in their old location?
Like their original place?
Yeah. So we're sitting around that goofy bar that sticks out in the middle of the room, and we're talking about what style do we make? Like, what is Big Cis? Like, it has to be a beer style. And at that time, it was very clear it had to be a Pilsner. If anybody listens to any of those early episodes of Cincy Brewcast, you know how much Mike loved Czech Pilsners.
Okay.
So we went with the Czech Pilsner, so super traditional. And as the years keep going on with this collaboration, the conversation keeps coming up, like, do we just have to always make a Pilsner?
Yeah.
And I think the whole kind of joke about all of this is that if Mike was still here, I don't think he would be as obsessed with Pilsner now as he was then, because
I agree.
I think half of the fun was that you couldn't get them. You couldn't find find a good Pilsner at the time.
And then when every craft brewery had 3 of them, and then all of a sudden, I could see him, just like most of us in our beer drinking like timeline, if you will. We go through, at some point in our lives, we all drank domestics, and then we maybe moved on to imports.
I didn't ever really do that.
So, well, it's okay. But
I'm very young too. I'm very.
Well, I guess that there's something to be said about that. But through the years, at least I can speak for myself, at least, that I've evolved from 40s, literally 40s back in high school. Right. And I'm sorry, I didn't start drinking before I was 21.
Could have been in high school for a very long time.
Well, that's a good point. Good point. But then, like, that went into imports for me. Some microbrews and crafts only because I lived in Colorado. But when I came back to, like, Cincinnati, for example, like, Belgian beers, things like that.
Right.
And then eventually craft comes in, and you start finding those imported beers. You love Czech Pilsner, you love Saisons. You find craft beer that way in that same style from imported. You'd latch onto it, you love it, but then from there you kind of grow, right? You kind of break off and go, you know what? Like, I'm not an IPA guy, but I really like an American Pale Ale or a dry hop lager or your favorite style, the Italian Pilsner.
I do love Italian Pilsners. I just think that there is a misconception about what that style actually is.
Oh, I think it's a labeling problem.
Dippa Josh, there are no Italian spices in an Italian Pilsner. It's not Italian spices.
A pepperoni beer.
Well, and that's, if anybody listens back a couple episodes, I sat down at Streetside with Garrett up there, and they have an Italian Pilsner right now that is, it's great beer, but it's branded, and I think the beer is called, I'm going to try not to imitate an Italian accent when I say this, but it's a spicy meatball.
Okay. It's called pizza English.
That's the name of their beer. That's an Italian Pilsner, which is great, and the label looks like a can of Chef Boyardee, but it's just it makes it confusing for people.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't like the style. I just think it's confusing.
But you think you're
going to
drink a Chef Boyardee beer?
I think that, and we're going down a rabbit hole, which is, I guess, part of what makes the show great.
I can pull the string back up.
No, you can't do that. The string is detached now. Part of what I think beer styles are supposed to be is just this really quick way for somebody to know exactly what they're going to get when they order a beer.
Or at least ballpark.
Yeah, it's supposed to tell you what your beer is going to taste like.
Exactly.
Even if it's a style that you make up, which sometimes you might have to do that.
Like oat lager.
Like an oat lager. But it tells you what you're going to get. Like if this was up there as a Pilsner and I ordered it, I would get halfway through a pint and be like, you know what? Like it's just not a good Pilsner. There's something going on with this. It's not great.
We named it wrong.
But if you call it an oat lager, I know exactly what it's going to be before I order it. And that's I think Italian Pilsner is confusing.
I don't disagree.
I
had to do a bunch of research when I first heard about it.
Cold IPA is confusing.
That one's confusing
I love all my IPAs
only
cold.
if you dive into the definitions of an IPA.
Yeah, but I shouldn't have to sit down at a bar and look up at the tap list and be like, oh, what's that? And then pull out the Oxford Companion to Beer and start flipping. Actually, it's probably not even in there.
If you just see it as a cold IPA and order it and you like it, it's when you learn about what it actually is and how it's made that confuses the hell out of everybody.
That might be true. This is an IPA, and yes, this is cold.
I will tell you, when I first learned about that beer style, we make one that I think was delicious. And when I learned about the style, I actually went into it completely blind, never heard of cold IPA, and the Master Brewers Association did a webinar about it.
Right.
And the two guys that kind of invented the style out west talked about it, et cetera, and I understood it from their descriptions. But then when I started having to describe it to customers and even fellow employees, et cetera, all of a sudden I started realizing this is really confusing.
It is. It's
if you drink it, you're like, wow, this is delicious. I call them an Imperial Session IPA.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way. I like that.
Because they should be high in alcohol, but they drink like a Session IPA.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Although that is confusing in itself.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Yeah. But at least there's some organized confusion.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a session barley wine. That's an English malt.
Mm-hmm. Or a double IPA barley wine.
Oh, yeah.
Also a little confusing.
That. Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Yeah.
It is both.
When it is just, does it depend on when you drink it? Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah. You're talking about the shoplifter specifically?
Yeah. Or? So let's talk about. Let's just keep going down this rabbit hole. Barley wine.
When it's fresh, which it is now.
I guess I'm thinking.
Most American barley wines are going to be, very, very bitter. Which this has got some bitter to it, but not too crazy. But it's not inappropriate, but you don't typically see them dry hopped. And so shoplifter, we dry hop quite heavily like you would a double IPA. Right. And so it does to me, it drinks up front like a double IPA, but finishes 100% barley wine.
I like that. That's good.
That candy sweetness, the high alcohol, all that good stuff. So when we decided to name it that way, we went back and forth. What do we call it? And that's what we settled on, and we're just sticking to our guns.
Well, I like it because again, if you're gonna push style boundaries with how you're making a beer, if you're gonna dry hop a barley wine or whatever that style may be, you have to then kind of push what you're calling that beer. You can't just call it the same thing that everybody has called them for you know.
Well, if you say
a case of
barley
wine,
wine, everyone usually goes English barley wine. They think big, giant, sweet, don't want it.
Yeah.
You go American barley wine, half the people are going to go, what are you talking about?
Right.
The other half are going to go, but with this one, it intrigues some of the IPA drinkers that wouldn't necessarily get an IPA, or I'm sorry, a barley wine, which is, at least I think it does. And it gets people to, which is part of our goal here at Darkness, is just get people to try something they wouldn't try before.
Right.
Like the IPA drinker may not ever try barley wine. But because we throw that on there as part of the title, we're kind of bringing them into that level, and maybe they will like it.
That makes sense.
So, yeah. And, you know, sometimes we just name stuff stupid things, and we own it. We're like, yep, we made that mistake, but we're not changing it. Yeah.
It's fine. People figure it out. And that's part of the fun of craft beer, too, is the exploration and the just figuring stuff out.
Which we have lots of opportunity to do here.
Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about Mike and about that's acting natural. Everybody that's listening to the podcast is like, what are they talking about? It's very distracting. How many pictures are you taking here?
He said, just ignore me. That's what you say all day long when you take pictures. Yeah.
Don't you guys have security here?
Yeah, we do. It's you.
Let's go back.
Actually, it's Chris.
Great. Backtrack a little bit and let's talk about kind of those early days of Cincy Brewcast. Sitting down with Mike, talk about kind of how the show fit into you guys starting as a brewery. And
well, that's first off, it was the fact that we were invited on a show to talk about our brewery and be in a room, because at those times we were never by ourselves. It was always other people representing other breweries. That's how we met Sean from Municipal, for example. Some other people from other breweries that weren't necessarily the brewers, but they were involved. And so first off, like, we came in feeling like the nobodies. And like, why do you want to talk to us? Like, we haven't even opened. And you all were fascinated, to hear our story. And you were very supportive. I don't know what else to say other than just a lot of that. Like,
it's one of the things that I love about Cincy Brewcast is, like, over the almost 10 years that the show has been going on, we get these, like, really great pictures of a brewery before they were open, before I mean, talk about it now. And if a brewery
I was bringing beer to your house over to that I brewed at my home.
Yeah, but if a brewery came to me today and said, "Oh, you know, we're in the middle of crowdfunding this brewery idea we have. We're gonna open in this this area that doesn't have, like, a lot of little neighborhood breweries, and we're gonna do." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure you are." Like, that's great. Like, it's 50-50 if it's ever going to happen. At that time, like, we didn't think like that.
No, I think that you have the numbers. I think we were 22 or 24 in the city, something around that, right? And so we were, I mean, by today's standards, we were kind of early on.
But it gives us...
We felt like we were one of the last, because again, I was trying to do this for a long time, and it just takes time, and because you got to save money and all the stuff that goes into it. And at the time, it was, I felt good about Bellevue. I felt good about our neighborhood, our location. I felt like we were in a place that people would support us. We don't need people to come from all over to take care of us. We can kind of be self-sufficient in a way. I had no idea we were going to be towards the beginning of the craziness.
Kind of where my brain is going with that, though, is like this ability now to, like, go back in time via recorded podcast and listen to the story of a brewery like you guys. And there's maybe a couple of them that we've been able to kind of take that whole journey with, but definitely you guys were one of the first where that started, where we see you as this we're crowdfunding. We have this idea, this thing, this might happen, might not happen, all the way to now where clearly it happened.
Yeah, it happened.
And as you've kind of grown and evolved along the way, like we get to see this like full picture of you guys and the story of this place, and I love that. Like I love that. Like even aside from the fact that I make the show every week, just to have this this archive of these stories and these places that throughout their journey is
that's good.
Something really special to me to be able to go experience.
And look at it all. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You mentioned that was how you met Sean from Municipal. You reminded me of when that happened. That was probably the craziest night that I think we've ever recorded a podcast, because I think Mike was going on vacation or something, and so we needed to record a couple episodes to make sure we had enough content so over the next few weeks we could make some shows. So we said, that's fine, we'll record 3 shows tonight.
Okay, I do remember that.
So we recorded 3 episodes of the podcast in the same night.
Okay.
We did there was one it was if my time is right on all of these episodes, was it the same night that Gamel from Rivertown came?
Yes, I think so.
Yep.
We might have done
Steve Shaw was there from Cellar Dweller at the time.
Steve was there, yeah.
I don't remember at all what we drank, but I know we drank light beer at one point. We did a light beer taste test. We argued about whether hot dogs were sandwiches. It was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you yes, an episode of Cincy Brewcast is an hour, but we usually have a little lead-up time where we sit and we hang out and we drink, and then afterwards there's usually a little cool-down period where we sit and we hang out and we drink.
Yeah.
So when it was all said and done, I think we sat around that, and at that point we were upstairs in the podcast studio. We probably, I mean, it had to be like a 5-hour, 6-hour podcast.
I don't think it was that long, because I did have to drive there and back, and I drove home just fine.
Were you there for all of the episodes?
It might have been 3 hours though. 2 or 3 hours.
I think we kind of staggered people in and out. And,
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It was
that I can't tell you if I was there for all.
It's
3 or not.
one of my favorite memories of kind of Brewcast episodes was definitely that one. That was because it was a lot of podcasting.
Yeah.
It was fun. Talk about you guys as far as the brewery goes. What's I mean, we're sitting in this expansion here into the Darkness Lounge. Is that what we call this space?
Yeah, we're calling it that.
You guys,
it's our front room. I mean, it's always been here, structurally speaking. It's always been open for people to come into, but it was it was an old office, and it felt like an old office.
Right.
And so through the last year, my partner Ron, way more than me, they put all this work in here, and blew it all open, opened it up to the ceiling, put the windows in, did everything if you're sitting here, everything you see around you, that was all done slowly over the course, maybe 7-8 months. But just got it finished up, and I think it was somewhere around our anniversary party, July, maybe June, where it was done, and it's open, if you will. So, yeah.
What's next? You guys do these you do these things in little increments. Stages, and you see putting the awning over top of the patio, and adding the Darkness Diner, and then the lounge,
and now the lounge, and I don't know. We might have to go on vacation.
You don't get to take vacations when you own a craft brewery. It doesn't exist anymore.
So no, we don't have anything. I know our planter boxes out front aren't planted. I think our goal this fall and next spring is to get those filled and planted.
Your next big thing is to plant some flowers?
Yeah, flowers, trees, shrubs, etc.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Remember, I went to school for that, so it's not easy.
I always forget that.
It's always super complicated if I'm involved. I know we've kicked around a lot of different ideas, but nothing's in stone as far as expansions here, there, et cetera, but you never know.
If you could go back in time to when we first did that episode, sitting around the dining room table, if you could nab yourself as you're walking out of the house and give yourself a couple pieces of advice as far as this industry.
I can't give myself a couple pieces. That's all or none.
What would you say though? Like what advice would you give a past you about this?
I mean, it's going to sound stupid, but patience. I was never short on patience, but patience with everything. I would have contacted TTB first day we sent our information in. That would have sped that process up.
Right.
It's all like goofy little specific things that. That's a tough question. It's a good question, but it's a tough question. I don't really know. I think that if it was just a general thing, I'd say patience, because nothing ever goes how you want it to go. Nothing goes as fast. When you have a problem, no one else cares. They're going to get there when they get there. They'll take care of it, but they're not on your schedule. So patience. Don't sweat it. That's easy to say now in my position now. When we started and you first start making beer and these, halfway homemade tanks, and if anything goes wrong, the power goes out, all your beer goes to trash.
Right.
Like those things. Over time, that doesn't bother me anymore because we've had it happen.
Right.
And guess what? It doesn't ruin everything all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So,
it's
but that's something that's like, that would just, don't worry about it. Even though that would be a bad thing to tell me back then, because then I would have just slacked off and not worried about anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and that's, I say it's a good question. I almost think it's not really a great question, because we all know that, you can't.
Oh, it's a hard question.
The things that we would change when we look back at it are part of the things that make us who we are now.
Exactly.
If we think about this podcast, there's been a lot of mistakes that we've made over the years with this podcast, and make mistakes constantly with this podcast still today, but it changes how the podcast is going to sound and look and feel tomorrow. It drives it kind of into these new places.
It's
and
almost
that's what makes
like
it special.
evolution.
Almost.
Almost.
Refuse to admit that I evolve ever.
Yeah. It's almost like we're humans.
I want to talk, before we kind of start wrapping things up, this is going to be a super long episode. I want to talk about the Bellevue Education Foundation.
Okay.
I wonder if Mike can hear me talking about him. He can't. He's over there.
Mr. Mike.
So, look at you. See, when you get close to the microphone, you can project out there.
Yeah.
Come on up here. We want to talk about this.
I mean, if you didn't need it for recording, I don't need a mic.
we need it for some kind of recording.
Do you want me to stay on?
Yeah, stay here. It'll be harder to squeeze out of here than.
You good to sit there? You got about 3 inches that you can go back.
Get in close to that microphone when you talk too, because
Test.
check it out for us.
Okay.
Keep talking.
All right, here I am.
There we go. So we shifted things a little bit this year. It's kind of been in the works over the last couple years of when we try to find a charity partner for Big Cis, trying to find a charity partner that makes sense for where we're at with the beer. Who's making the beer? What is the charity partner that is around them that means the most to them, maybe, or that they feel like they want to support the most? And as soon as we started talking about it, the guys at Darkness here we've got the perfect place for this one, the Bellevue Education Foundation. Tell us a little bit about you guys and what you do.
Okay, I'm glad to do that. And first of all, we appreciate Darkness picking us as being the charity person. And the other thing is that Darkness, I have to say this, since they've been in business, they have been a big supporter of the Bellevue Education Foundation from day one. Anything we've asked, they've been there. What we do, we've been around for, I think it's going to be 20 years, and I have been there since day one. And we raise money through a golf outing and things like this. We've had a karaoke thing, different things that we can raise money on. And what we do is in our treasury, we meet 4 times a year for the Bellevue Independent School District, and we're not elected, we're independent of them. And the teachers, and a lot of people know this, some don't, I didn't know, a lot of teachers will go into their own pocket
Sure.
to buy things for their classes. They have to do it. So what we do, we have a vetting system to where they have to fill out an application for what they want, tell us what it's for, tell us where they're buying it, how much it's going to cost. And then a lot of times it'll go to the school first, and sometimes the school say, hey, that's in our budget, and they're doing it. If it's not, it comes to us, we vet it, and then it goes to the board to vote yes or no. One of the things we did not long ago, we spent $6,000 on new instruments for the band. They loved it. About a year and a half ago, I think 2 years maybe, I lose track of time, we bought every child in Grandview Elementary a iPad.
That's great.
And along with the iPad, they got the case with it. We paid the insurance on the case. It's theirs. They take it home with them. They go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base sometimes. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is free.
Right.
But you got to get them there and get them back.
Got to get there, yeah.
So we provide the transportation for them. So it's things like that. I've seen people put in for as low as $57, and I've seen it as high as $15,000. We've done very good. Our first golf outing that we had some 20 years ago, I believe, made $1,200, and that's where we started. And now we've got a pretty good nest egg, Now during COVID, we were able to still raise money, and we weren't putting a whole lot of money out because the kids weren't in school. Now they're back. We're back to normality, I hope. And that's basically what we do, just to help the school system out.
What got you into this? Like, how did you find your way into this charity?
Wayne Starnes was the superintendent of Bellevue. According to Wayne, he said at one time there was a Bellevue Education Foundation. I personally don't remember it, and he wanted to bring it back. So he came to people like me, Tom Recton of Tom Recton Heating and Air Conditioning, and different people around the town to put this together and to see where we could go with this, see where we could run with it. I've always been active in the community. I sit on the Bellevue City Council, and I've always been active here in Bellevue. And we brought together a lot of people, and we have grown from there. Tom Recton was our presidency runs for 2 years. Tom Recton was our president, and he stayed around a while. And I started, being retired, I started going up and down the avenue here collecting door prizes for our golf outing and all that. And he got a hold of me one day, and he said, Mike, I'm soon to be 80 years old, and I'm going to get out of the presidency. I want you to be the president. I said, no, Tom. I said, no. I said, I do good with the sales part of it, selling sponsorships and getting prizes and all that. And he looked at me and he said, well, you can do both. And I said, well, thanks a lot. But you know what? I'm so glad I did it. I did a 2-year term. And during that 2-year term, a gentleman named Dave Fessler, a graduate of Bellevue that moved away from Bellevue for a while, then came back here. He's a lawyer, and Wayne brought him in.
One of those.
Yes, one of those. But Wayne brought him in to look at our bylaws, make sure we were legal and everything. And as I was winding up my term, I said something to Dave, and he said, I would love to be the president. And Dave has done 3 terms. He's done a great job. And next in October, next month, we will be picking a new president and everything. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's going to be Jessie Beecham. But she's going to like me say that. She's going to say, well, I got to be voted on first. Well, I'll tell you what, if she's not it, I'm done. Okay, but we got a good slate of people coming in. And the big thing, when I did it, I thought to myself, what is it that I can do? What is it I can do? Every president thinks that. And the biggest thing I thought is I looked around the room, and I know my age, and I said, we got to bring young people in. And I was fortunate enough to get some young people who introduced me to other young people, and they came in. That's what you need. They're taking the ball, they're running with it, and they're doing a tremendous job.
Awesome. So if people are listening to this after this event and they want to kind of help support, they want to give back to you guys, how do they do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch?
We have a website, BellevueEducationFoundation.com. Go on there, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And I think there's even, that'd be the best way to do it.
And
Go on there. And
we'll put a link in the show notes. I promise I'll remember to put a link in the show notes. Go in there and click, and it'll send you right there.
I appreciate it very much. I appreciate you. Again, appreciate Darkness for bringing us in here for this and everything they've done for us and the city. They're very good corporate people. And thanks for having us.
Of course. No, thank you guys. And if anybody is hanging out here and you haven't yet hit the raffle table, go buy some tickets, put a bunch of money into the raffle baskets, and not only do you get some cool swag if you win, the money goes to something good, and that's kind of the whole point of this. So support them. Thank you.
Absolutely does. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for supporting Cincy Brewcast over the years. This show has gone through all kinds of evolutions, all kinds of what I love to call chaos in that time, and it's not stopping anytime soon. I talk a lot about how, especially this time of year, I put a lot of thought into this whole thing, and I don't know if I had not run into Mike Cisneros sitting at the bar at Mount Carmel, I don't know what my life would look like today. Like it was like this very defining moment where things shifted for me, and what the Gnarly Gnome was changed, and clearly podcasting became a big part of that, and that kind of started to shift career stuff for me and all kinds of things. So it just that was a very defining moment for me. So Big Cis is about a lot of different things for, I think, all of us, but for me it's about this moment in my life where things changed, and I
get to remember your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is it's a great time to just sit back and kind of look back at where we were and where we're going, and how it all fits together. Thank you. Thank you to everybody here at Darkness for making this event happen again. As far as people listening to the podcast, we'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about because I don't actually know when this show is going to post, because we're getting backed up on episodes now. We have all kinds of fun stuff coming up.
Me and beer.
Yeah, we have a episode with Lebanon Brewing Company that is going to be up. Or was up Monday after the event. We've got Sonder Oktoberfest coming up. That's always fun.
Isn't that today?
That's tomorrow.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of fun episodes coming up.
It's Friday. Yeah.
So make sure you subscribe to the show, because that's how you get the latest episodes. And if you really like this, share it with somebody and send the episode to them, or send the podcast to them and let them know how much fun it is. And if you really like it, go to thegnarlygnome.com/support, because as long as money comes in, my wife doesn't get too angry at me. That's the whole secret to this.
He's got to break even.
Got to break even.
Yep.
We'll see you guys later. Thank you very much. Once again, it's Cincy Brewcast, and it is the voice of Cincy Craft. That is, it's a big go down a rabbit hole there, but we won't because the episode's ending.
Sure, that sounds good to me.
thegnarlygnome.com/support if you want to support the show. Share with a friend, all of that fun stuff. I hit the music too late, so now we're just going to keep talking about things. How about the Bengals?
How about them Broncos?
Broncos, jeez, I forgot. Cincy
I know they suck.
The voice of Cincy Craft.